We're doing a drop top fade today. You come in with your start line lower than a typical fade. You want to make sure that you keep it lower because this is a drop fade. An average fade should not go above the widest point of the head, but for this drop fade, it's the same principle, just a little bit lower. And going lower does not hurt the game because you give yourself more room to work with. But yes, within the first 5 minutes of your haircut, you want to get that bottom line cleared out, whether it's a temp fade or a ball fade, and get that top right. So once you get the line cleaned out and you pretty much see that it's even, you come back with your guard that you're going to use to get the top at the desired length. You come back with that, you go with the grain. If a person doesn't have waves, they may not care which way you go. But if a person has waves, then clearly go with the grain. It just makes everybody comfortable, even though you can't lose waves by going against the grain. But to satisfy the customer, this man has invested a lot of time in this. So anyway, get the top right by taking your guard, going down with the grain. You know what I'm saying? Making sure you pay attention to the spinner, the calyx in the head. Sometimes in the middle of the back, sometimes in the front, depending on where they at. But once you establish your height of the length of the top, then you come back, turn that same guard over, and you go up. Remember, you want to stay in the vicinity of the widest point of the head. And this is probably the most crucial part of the fade because at this point, you're trying to make sure that your hair is not going above, your fade is not going above the widest point of your head, and this is where you marry the height to the blend. So you're going to go here with it until you're satisfied with reaching it up all the way around, and then you may want to come back and turn your clipper over and go with the grain to on that same area to try to just make that blend in. That's probably the most difficult part of this, is making that look right with the blend. But you take your time with that and come back over it, adjust the level of your guard with the arm just to get that to lay properly around the widest point of the head coming down. You want to get that laid properly in position. And you know, when you got three fades, when you going on the left side, you kind of fading to your right. And because you're going to complement the grade, the hair grade, the lay of the hair. And then when you're going on the right side, you're fading to the left. And when you're in the back, you're going straight up. And these are all C strokes, but to have that understanding in place, you can't use the same stroke all the way around. And this is just something to keep in mind if you want to make sure that you are really focusing on the blend. You know, it'll make it a lot easier to understand and a lot easier to do if you just keep that in mind, that concept, because you want to continue to go. The grain is determined by how the waves lay. So you want your fade to be pretty much against that. And you take your guards and you go lower and lower with your guards, because this is called fading down. I call it fading down because you get the top right and you use every guard that you have all the way till the fade is in place. And the opposite, fading up, can sometimes push your fade up higher than you want to while you try to get those lines out. Now, I have shifted my guards and I've shifted the lever on my arm with the guards. These are all things that you have to do with every guard level. You got to shift up, shift down, just to get that fade right. You using the mirror, you turning, you squinting, you got the light on it. And now that I've gotten beyond the guard stage, I am down to the blade stage. And this is where the magic of the fade takes place. You actually take each side and you use your guard with it all the way open. I mean, your blade with it all the way open. And then you work it up and down and midways and up and down and midways to make sure that you do what you have to do to get the desired look. You know, the average person, you know, would stop, you know, right about here. They like, oh, this is good. I can leave this like this. But if you really in tune with your skill and you really have an understanding of what you're doing and you want your fade to have that soft, flawless drop on it, This is where it takes place. You got to play with it. You got to basically use your clippers like erasers. By using your clippers like erasers, you're basically erasing away everything that doesn't lay into the fade that you want to be there. And you just have to be very meticulous and patient with it. You know what I'm saying? A fade is like shooting a free throw. You cannot skip steps. You cannot skip steps. And people make they have fade mistakes because they rushing, or they taking their eye off, or they doing too much. Like me, this would normally be a little faster, and it wouldn't look as, I'm holding the camera with one hand, when in most cases I'll be holding a comb with it, and all that works into play with how you feather away that hair. But if you look at me, I'm using angles, corners of the clippers, the flatness, the tips, and I'm trying to get it to touch the certain spots that I needed to get the desired look of the soft blend as I lay this drop fade for this video. Again, you want to take your guard and be very generous with the doggone arm on there. Use that arm a lot, because it's going to go up and down. It's up and down a couple of times. So by using your guard up and down like that, you're making sure that you hit the levels. Now, mind you, I did not use the clippers on bald, nor did I use a trimmer to start my fade, because to me that takes away from what you're able to do with the clippers when you put such a committed line in it, like with the trimmers. I usually start my fade with the blade halfway. If you're doing a fade, that blade being halfway is not going to make a difference, because when it's time to get to this level, then you drop that blade all the way down to solidly closed, and then you work that out, in and out, in and out. And even then, it won't give your fade the 100% skin bald look that you get if you come with the trimmers. And again, you want the soft blends. And you see how soft that blend looks, because you're going all the way down into it below the tan line, and you leaning on it, and you hitting spots that may not have gotten the attention that they deserve. Then you have the remember, you go to the other side. You see I'm using the corner of those trimmers right there to hit them dark spots and just touching it up. Again, most people would end their fade here. They've winning. Now, man, I like this fade. This is tough right here, and you got to keep your eye on the prize. You don't really want to do too much talking. You don't really want to be watching too much. Just some good music to get you a nice flow and get you going with it. And once you find your rhythm, you'll know what it's supposed to be. Now, when you come through here and you come back at the end, that's when you grab your trimmers and you come from the bottom and you start from the doggone top of the cape, and you go up and around those ears very, very meticulously, not too high. Because if you go up too high, you start entering that beach that starts your hair. I call it a beach because it just flows in like water, and you want to stay low. Now, if you do realize, because this is also where you solidify your geometric positioning of your fade, and if you get to some spots that's a little darker, then you pull your clippers back out and you mess with them and keep touching at it and keep going at it. But this is where the fade makes the difference, because a lot of people would have been done. You have to pay attention to detail. A barber is a very meticulous, a very precise individual. And the back of the hair is what other people see. When other people see your hair faded like this in the back and faded all the way around, they're going to be like, yeah, I like that. And they know, a real barber knows that somebody took their time with it. So you come through and you come and clean everything. And if you need to go back to the clippers, you do that. You know what I'm saying? But you understand the desired look. And at this point, I'm so deep into it, I see stuff that nobody sees, because I've been at it for like 20, 30 minutes, and it's like 15, 20 minutes. So I'm actually looking deep into it. And these are things I spotted a long time ago in the cut. Now, there comes a time in the fade where people start spraying and using pencils and all of that. The key to avoid having to use those techniques is to get you a nice towel box and get you a nice hot towel about 80 degrees, and you take that towel and you lay it on the customer's head. They are going to appreciate that because it feels great to them. To you, you're wiping the hair down, getting the excess grease and sweat out of the hair, making sure that the skin is dry properly. Instead of coming in there with a sweaty, oily scalp, you wiping everything down that you're going to have to trim up. And plus, you wiping down your canvas to see if you missed any spots in your fade. At this point, if people got grease in their hair, you come back, and this is when you find out whether your fade is good. Because when you got too much grease in your hair, the hair won't fall off. And if the hair don't fall off, you don't really get to see what you're doing, and you don't even know that you missed spots. Then you come back with a blow dryer and a brush to lay the hair down one more time. And at this point, you make sure that you don't have any wild strands sticking up, and you come and go over it real tight with your trimmers or your clippers or whatever you use to crop the top of your hair with. And then once it's dry, you can go into your trimmer phase. I don't use sprays and all that extra stuff. What I do is start my hairline at the lowest point so that I can make sure that I keep as much of this man's hair in use. I don't want to push him back to get a solid look. People push the hair back to get a solid look, and then in 2 days, all the new stuff growing back in, and the man has a terrible haircut. But if you start low and tap it like that, and you're going to have a couple spots in the front for some people, they're fine with that. They know what they look like. A lot of time people get into sprays and stuff because they not satisfied with how it looks to them. It ain't about you. It's about the person in the chair. This man knows he doesn't want to go back home with makeup on his face. Everybody looking at him like he crazy. What you doing all that makeup on? We don't do that. We give you a nice solid haircut, a nice sharp look that complements your natural self. The more natural the edge up and hairline and haircut is, and I say natural, I mean no enhancements. The more natural the hairline is, or the more natural you use the cut with no makeup and stuff, the better the customer looks. The customer knows how they look. They know how they want to look. They do not need enhancements and makeup and sprays and all that stuff. And it takes away from the skill set of a barber. And then you have a lot of clients that go home very upset and disturbed because they went through such a tragic experience, because now their hat got black spots on it. It done started raining and it's leaking on their head. They done got in the shower and got out and realized they got a whole new haircut. It's too much. It's just too much. So you keep that edge up natural. You let them look at it, and they'll love the fact that you were able to find a straight line in that. You'd be surprised. Then at that point, you go back and you brush it and you touch it up and make sure that you didn't miss anything. If you need to use a razor, use a razor. I don't necessarily charge extra for the razor because I owe you a sharp, beautiful, blended, polished haircut that you cannot get anywhere else in the world. That's what I've provided for this man. This is the 2-top drop, and you can get that at Blend Masters Barbershop. Hit me up. That's my number. Call me, set up your appointment, and we can do it like that. Peace.